Coming up on the Cowboys Report, injury news and updates here for Dallas, the possibility of Dan Quinn going to Seattle, or maybe Mike McCarthy. Yeah, that one is out there somehow. And Bill Belichick is once again being linked to Dallas. That's at the end of the video. Make sure you tune in. I have the answer for you. Injuries to begin here. First 5 players getting the rest day on Wednesday. Very expected here. It's the guys who have been resting. Brandon Cooks, Jourdan Lewis, DeMarcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith. Let's check in on the other actually injured players. Johnathan Hankins, who the Cowboys initially listed as a DNP on Wednesday's practice. They then adjusted it to actually he was limited. He was out there again for the pads practice on Thursday. He's still going to deal with that ankle injury, but it is one that's in good shape, and he will be able to play for the Cowboys against Green Bay, who I would expect tries to run the football quite a bit. Other players who were listed on the injury report but were designated as full participants, Malik and Dorance Armstrong. So, look, they do have an injury to the ankle, but it's not enough that's going to prevent them from playing, but the Cowboys are going to follow the NFL requirements and list players who are at least significantly enough banged up. Let's go to the 2 big ones then. Stephon Gilmore, but first, Tyler Smith. Now, Smith has practiced in a limited fashion this week. That is a great sign for Dallas. All of this trends to, barring some type of weird setback or the pain gets substantially worse somehow, that Smith is going to be able to play against the Green Bay Packers. For whatever reason, and there's good science reason behind it, the fully torn plantar fascia is better than a partially torn one. There's a lot of pain management to deal with, but expectation is Tyler Smith is out there on Sunday against the Packers. The same is true for Stephon Gilmore. He plans to play with a harness on that separated shoulder injury that he had. MRI showed up pretty good results in terms of there not being anything that would limit him from being able to play. There's no severe injuries there. So Gilmore is set to play. He wanted to do some stuff on Thursday's practice, some drills and whatnot to get more used to playing with the harness on his shoulder, underneath the pads, etc. So it wasn't the first time he did it on Sunday. Here's what Gilmore said after Wednesday's practice about playing. For sure, I'm looking forward to the opportunity this week. Whatever it takes, he'll play. The Cowboys' cornerback depth chart here sits like this. And for now, I'm still going to go ahead and list Gilmore as an asterisk for the hurt, because he is hurt, but he's going to play through the pain because he's a tough player. And it's been a while since he's played in the postseason, so he wants to be out there. Deron Bland, Jourdan Lewis against a Packers passing game that's gotten much better. And a very similar time since Dallas got much better. Week 8 after their bye, week 9 for Green Bay, they've been not that different. Love to Dak from their numbers, which is testament to how good Love has been. We'll talk more about that later on this week. But what is your concern level over the Dallas Cowboys injuries right now? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. It is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's talk the status involving Dan Quinn, Pete Carroll, and the Seattle Seahawks. We'll get to that one here. The minute the news happened, it was a very common one from that perspective that Pete Carroll announced he's going to leave the Seattle Seahawks. He's going to step away, kind of mutual parting of the ways there. Pete Carroll out as the head coach. Dan Quinn was immediately linked to the job by pretty much everyone. Every single national outlet was like, this is the one, like keep an eye on him. He's a standpoint, whatever. Quinn coached there from 2009 to 2010 and from 2013 to 2014. And of course had the Super Bowl Super Bowl title with the Seahawks defense, the Legion of Boom, whatever. And I don't think it's an accident that every single national outlet, reporter, etc., tweets that out. And you know where it probably came from, right? Probably came from more of the Quinn camp than it was the Seattle camp. This might be the one for Dan Quinn. I think this one of the Chargers jobs are the ones to monitor, and the early favorite for the Seahawks gig seems to be Dan Quinn. Now, that was the exact same case in Denver a few years ago. Then ownership changed, they wanted the offensive mind, and it all kind of fell apart on him. I think Dan Quinn wants to be a head coach again. And look, Jerry's paid him. Jerry's given him the power that you could give to a defensive coordinator. There's 32 of these jobs, though, and 31 once you take away the Atlanta Falcons, which he's never going to be the head coach of again. This seems like a decent time for Quinn. Multiple teams so far have already expressed interest in Dan Quinn. Seattle, Los Angeles, Washington, Carolina, and Tennessee. Those first two teams are the ones I think you need to monitor here. The Seattle Seahawks and LA. Everyone linked Quinn to Seattle. The Chargers also have some personnel in place to make that a very appealing job. Their salary cap is not exactly in great shape, but they have Herbert and some young talent. And I think Dan Quinn likes Kellen Moore. And that could certainly be a not even arranged marriage, but something along those lines to actually make that work in LA. But when everyone links a coach to one job, there's normally a reason for that. Normally there is. So I would definitely keep an eye on Dan Quinn and Seattle. We'll see when the official, interview requests come in, but that's one to keep an eye out for. So will Dan Quinn get the Seattle Seahawks job? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comment section right now. I know we're talking coaching rumors, but there is a game going on this Sunday for the Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers. If you're trying to go to the game, which is a whiteout, by the way, use Game Time. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets. You shouldn't have to worry about finding tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for whatever it is, from sports to music, comedy, everything else in between. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. You don't have to worry about, adjusting anything from that standpoint. It's very simple. You don't have to worry about beating the buzzer. You've got time to get your tickets. They're also going to give you $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CowboysChat for $20 off. That's COWBOYSCHAT for $20 off. The link and, of course, the promo code will be in the comment section and the description of today's video. We're going to move over now to the Mike McCarthy and the Seahawks job. It's something. I was surprised by it, to be blunt. McCarthy has been linked to this job. I even saw Ed Warder tweeting about it, by the way. The rationale here is the Seahawks GM John Schneider and Mike McCarthy are very close. They are close from their time together with the Green Bay Packers. And right before Mike got fired, when the Packers were looking for their new GM, he wanted John Schneider. Seattle blocked that interview, and it ended up not materializing. It is also worth mentioning McCarthy has won 12 games for 3 years in a row, and there has not been a coach who has been fired or traded with that level of success in a row. Hasn't happened before. Now, this originally came from Mike Sando, who works for The Athletic. Hit and miss. He says, obviously early in the process, but another person with strong ties at the Seahawks front office is Mike McCarthy. Just something to keep in mind if certain things unfold. For me, this doesn't pass the initial smell test. And as we get into with Bill Belichick here momentarily, certain things unfolding is a lot to unfold. It's not an easy or likely path that these things happen. Some notable Sando reports. Now, most of these came from unnamed NFL executives speculate, which I hate. In October, after the Niners lost, it was, you know what, you can't pay Dak now. That was the report. In December, the Cowboys are imploding. In January, what about Bill Belichick to the Cowboys, which we will also come back to. And now, what about Mike McCarthy in Seattle? I think we're stretching that a little bit. Frankly, quite a lot of a bit there. Again, it would require some unusual circumstances to get there, which we'll go more in depth on here momentarily. But there is a real chance you lose Dan Quinn, and potentially to Seattle as well. If you could only keep one of these guys, who is it? DQ for Dan Quinn, MM for Mike McCarthy. Sound off for me in the comment section right now. DQ, MM, go vote. What's important to note across the board, and I'm a little bit not frustrated. I get how this whole thing works. A little bit weird to have so much coaching conversation for an NFC East champion that's won 12 games in 3 straight years. I have said before, playoff successes is what is going to define this team, and that's all we care about. Regular stuff is great. Postseason matters. But you cannot make the decision right now if that's the case. And I think you actually have more time than you think to make that call. Remember, in-person interviews can't even be done until after January 22nd. We're a week and a half away from even finalists being determined for these jobs. So you have time. I do want to make note here of the more likely internal Dan Quinn replacements. And I'll mention Al Harris here off the bump. Everyone loves Al Harris, and to be clear, I am also pro Al Harris. He is not next in line. And I think there's been a lot of not knowing the pecking order of this Cowboys coaching staff. Joe Witt Jr. is the next man up for this Cowboys staff. Al Harris done a great job with a lot of technique stuff for this Cowboys defensive backs unit. Joe Witt is your secondary and passing game coordinator. And it's he who has called some of the preseason defensive stuff, not Al Harris. I think Witt is also much more comfortable, knowledgeable, and just experienced in more of the schematic stuff that you need to have for your defensive coordinator. I like Al Harris a lot. Both guys, by the way, are McCarthy guys. Joe Witt was a McCarthy assistant for a very long time in Green Bay. Al Harris, of course, played under McCarthy in Green Bay. Adam Dirty, who I put in because his name is fun to say, defensive line coach, is a bit more of a Dan Quinn guy. I could see him following Quinn wherever he ends up going, whether it's a DC role or not. But I think as much as I love Harris, Joe Witt Jr. is the name to monitor, not just for this Cowboys job, and both guys could get interviews. If Dan Quinn does stay, other teams are going to have interest in Joe Witt as their DC. So don't miss any Dallas Cowboys news, coaching related or not, injury news, whatever. We will have you guys covered. Hit that sub button for me right now. We are once again back with the Bill Belichick rumors. He is officially out, happened early this morning as the Patriots head coach. The leading charge of this, just straight up speculation, because Schefter says there's an unnamed mystery team that's interested, which I'll talk on that here, by the way, in a minute. Mike Florio was pushing this very, very hard, which Florio tends to get attached to certain theories and doesn't let them go until after he's been proven wrong over and over again. The Falcons are the top threat here. It's been reported multiple times for weeks that the Falcons have a lot of interest in Bill Belichick. This rumor is not going to go away, though. There is an immense amount of respect from Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick, which, by the way, is not unique to just Jerry and just Bill. A lot of NFL owners have respect for Bill Belichick, and there are several NFL owners that Bill Belichick has a tendency to respect. Go figure. You have a lot of respect for the second most winningest coach in NFL history. Whomst among us could have seen that one coming? The only path that this exists as a viable option is if there is a historically bad, disaster-class, nightmare football effort from the Cowboys against the Packers. And in the event you get embarrassed, I think everything should be on the table, because that is an unacceptable outcome that shouldn't happen. It is not expected to happen. It is very unlikely to happen. We're already off in a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in this entire conversation. It's kind of why I don't like doing it right now, because it's not really a viable one at this stage. So in the event something terrible happens on Sunday, we will revisit this conversation. Otherwise, I think you're a lot more likely to find an owner who wants to be aggressive for head coaches, who has had a quicker trigger figure than Jerry Jones has. Everyone says, oh, Jerry Jones does wild stuff. Not anymore. Jerry doesn't do that anymore. That's not who he is. Arthur Blank might try to be aggressive. He's done that before. I think your ownership in Philadelphia and Jacksonville might be a little bit more willing to be a quick trigger on their head coaches than compared to what Dallas has done. Mike's been here for 4 years. Jerry likes him a lot. Garrett was here forever. A Belichick-esque move would be out of character for the guy Jerry Jones has been the last 10, 15 seasons. I think that tends to get overlooked.